Hello, hello. Just we'll get there. We'll get there. Just gonna lower that. I had how's everyone doing? I had this music playing, which I have happening kind of in behind the screen. It's not really behind me, and then also I'm watching the live feedback coming through playback. I don't know through Facebook, and both of the musics were going on at the same time. But hello. We're going to be doing something pretty different today. Actually, I don't really know a lot of people that have done this kind of thing before. Hi, Lydia. How are you? I'm just going to make sure that I can see any comments that come through, because if we're doing this little practice live using a mirror, I'm interested to hear what some of the feedback is, because generally speaking, this is going to actually be, hey, Georgia, this is not going to be the full hour today, because what we're doing is there isn't a lot of teaching to do about this. It's going to be more of a practice. And I'm hoping that I can kind of lead this practice in a way that you can come back and watch the video and try the practice repeatedly. There was a point where I had actually considered calling this the 7-day mirror challenge, because it's something that you're not going to fully benefit from just doing it once. It is something that you're going to want to do repeatedly as often as possible. Once a day would be great for at least 7 days. Usually around the 4 or 5 day mark, you start to really notice the difference. But the general idea here of what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be using a mirror. So you can actually see what I see now. That's what I see. That's the camera that I look at. It's hard to do this right there. That's the camera. Anyway, that's what I look at. So the reason why I brought this little mirror is because there's where am I? There's me on a screen. That's what I see. There I am on the screen. Hey, waving at myself. Okay. So the reason why I brought the mirror is because if I look at you as if I'm looking in the mirror while I'm guiding this, I see a black, I just see this black thing. I can't see myself. If I look down there where I see myself, which is down there, then it looks like this. Like it looks like I'm not looking at you at all. So what I thought I might try and do is take this mirror and actually put it on top of this camera lens, like up here, kind of where, or beside it. So at least it looks like I'm somewhat like kind of close to looking at you. I don't know what that looks like. I can't see both at the same time. Anyway, that's enough said about that, I think. All right, so here's the idea. Now, I discovered this through, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't directly taught this. I have been taught about doing some mirror work where the mirror is actually entirely black. That's a very different experience. This is using a regular mirror, and I kind of came to understand this practice through doing it. I've attended and facilitated a lot of ceremonies, events, gatherings where I would take a break during leading, and I would go into the bathroom. I would go to the washroom, and then I would, while I'm washing my hands, I would just stare in the mirror and regroup and reground and look at myself. And I started doing this it was a long time, like 12 years ago, probably at this point. And over the course of the years, I noticed that there was a difference in when I did it, if it was in the middle of me running an event, if it was just something I'm doing in the morning, if I was extremely tired in the middle of the night, if it was in the middle of the day, it all had a slightly different process. So one thing I want to just put out there is that this is going to work differently if you do it at different times. So if you want to try and do this as a daily practice, all daily practices, by the way, work best when done at the same time, actual like clock hour. There is something in the brain that our brains are just really good at registering the passage of time. We have a temporal lobe for that, and spatial awareness. And if you do something at the exact same time every single day, you will stop needing an alarm clock. Your body will start triggering reactions at that same time as if you were doing it. So if you meditate every single day at exactly 5:48 p.m., no matter where you are, what you're doing, at some point, you'll have to build that as a habit over time. But they say 21 days. For some people could be longer, some people as little as 7 days. At some point, your brain will just know when it's 5:48, and your brain will just start to shut down and go into meditation mode. So this is the value of doing something as an everyday practice. You'll get the same kind of thing happen where when if there's a couple that own a dog and one of the partners is at home, they'll know that their partner's coming home because the dog will just like go and sit by the door just because it's that time, and the dog starts to expect. And the dog doesn't have a clock. It's just brains are really good at just registering the passage of time. So if you do this at the same time, or any practice same time every day, your brain will very quickly drop into that state. Point number one. Point number two, if you do it in the same mirror, same location, that will add into the power of this, but it will work in almost any mirror. What I am going to say, though, is don't use a phone looking at yourself. So if I turn on my phone and flip it around to self-view, and I see, just so you can see, if I'm looking at myself on this, the screen has a flicker. And the flicker on the screen, there's also, the lenses are designed for a certain distance away. So if I put it really close to me, there's going to be a distortion. My nose will actually get larger the closer I get because of the camera distortion. So it's actually really important to not use a phone, because the flicker will stop you from being able to change your brain state or your meditative state. Okay. It puts you into an alpha state or a suggestible state. But what you want is to actually be using a mirror that is very, very flat and very, very accurate. So a glass mirror works best. And it's important that you try to use the same mirror every day, because otherwise you'll start to notice slight differences between different mirrors, and you'll be picking up on that. And that's not the idea of this practice. The idea of this practice is it's a mindfulness practice that is with the intention of becoming aware of what your body's natural reaction is to looking at yourself for an extended period of time. So they've done these social experiments. I don't have a reference to a study or one. I've just seen so many of them that it's a thing now, where they've taken groups of people that are strangers and had them sit roughly, maybe it's about 3 feet apart, their faces like this far apart, pretty close. And just they'll have a 5-minute clock and a timer, and say, okay, you got 5 minutes to sit and stare at each other. You're not allowed to say a word, and do your best to not look away. And most of the time, when in these kind of social studies, the people, as soon as they start looking at the other person, within seconds, they want to look away because it starts to feel strange that you're staring at somebody. And they have to, it's part of this experiment. Of course, they know they're going to be sitting there for 5 minutes. But the first thing they have to do is acknowledge what is that reaction to wanting to look away? What is the process inside? Is it embarrassment? Is it fear? Is it fear for the other person being uncomfortable? Is it self discomfort? And then you just stay. Don't look away. And then at usually around about a minute to 2 minutes, there's like people try to communicate with their eyes and their faces, and they're trying to like have a conversation because sitting silently can be really difficult. Okay. Staring is level 1 difficulty. Not communicating is level 2 difficulty. So they try to get around that. And then usually 2 or 3 minutes passes and they can't, there's only so much you can do. So they're just kind of stuck with just staring at each other. And somewhere in the 5 to 7 minute mark, there is this resonance field that happens. There is an attunement, entrainment. There is a resonance. There's basically a vibrational matching that starts to happen between brain states, heart fields. This is an electrical field. Heart is a magnetic field, and basically, most of the people will start to synchronize to some degree. And once they start to synchronize, there is a form of safety or surrender that basically comes up in the participants. And very, very often they do one of two things. They either start to laugh or they start to just cry, like so much. It's not expression. It's an expression, but it's more like release. That would be the best word. The crying comes from the sense of release from staring at each other for 5 minutes and having to break down these barriers of just staring at something and to some degree being trapped in the situation, but by choice, and having to just deal with the experience and not be able to run away from it. And the results are that usually people say that there was a sense of connection that they've never really felt because normally we don't stare at people and we look away. And this is what I want to propose to you as this exercise. So in that same way, something that we generally do even less than staring at another person, because we might have conversations with people where we are looking at them for an extended period of time. Somebody can easily talk for 5 minutes and have us look at them and keep eye contact, and that's pretty normal. But what we tend to not do is do it to ourselves. This is going to be really difficult. I always think I got it nailed. But there's me. There's me now. That's the me that you see. There's a little picture of me up on top. Okay. So let's if there's any questions, go ahead and type them out, and I'm looking at my screen for any questions that are coming up. But otherwise, I'm gonna hide that. Go over my comment section. So in the same way of these social experiments of just staring at a person, this kind of self-experiment is the idea of staring at yourself. Now, here I am. I'm putting that there so I can do this along with you, because it is, to be honest, a very different experience than looking at a camera or a phone. Looking at a mirror is also, I don't know, it's more familiar to the nervous system and to our evolutionary bloodline, if you will, because a mirror has been around a lot longer than a phone, and a phone tends to be tied to privacy and people being able to see things. There's just something more intimate and private about a mirror. So I'm going to take my mirror. It's kind of hard to hold it up like that, but just so you can see when I'm actually looking at it and when I'm looking at, because you're there and I'm here. Anyway, so I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and let's just kind of start this process and what this kind of looks like. So if I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and this is what you would do. You would start to just look at yourself in a mirror, bathroom mirror, whatever the case may be. And the first thing to do is to make a commitment to an amount of time. I recommend 5 minutes. That can feel like a really long time. If it does, even better. That's what you want, is the discomfort of staring at yourself for 5 minutes. It's not what you want is the discomfort. I may have misspoken there. What you want is to be aware if there's discomfort that comes from staring at yourself for 5 minutes. Because this is the whole point of this process is, I'm going to keep showing it because it's the only thing I have to show here, is the recoding of whatever self-esteem or process that comes up while you're staring at yourself in the mirror. Okay, it's a lot of talking. Let's do some doing. Okay. So you're gonna sit yourself in front of a mirror or stand in front of a mirror, but something that you can do for 5 minutes. I'm using a hand mirror. Okay. And the first thing you're gonna do when you look at yourself in the mirror is make this commitment that you are spending time with yourself, at least 5 minutes. Okay. So it's 15 minutes in. We're going to see if this lasts for 5 minutes. And the first thing to do is relax. Okay. I'm going to move into like guided meditation voice now because I'm just kind of channeling this as I go. So position yourself in a distance where the face that you're looking at is roughly the same size as if a person was sitting in front of you. Okay, so if I'm too far away from the mirror, I'm pretty small. It's not like I'm looking at a live human in front of me. The idea is I'm bringing it roughly whatever the mirror is that you're using in the bathroom, whatever. For me, it feels like it's roughly that far. Okay, that gets me a pretty normal one-to-one face size you can see here. Okay, so that's step number 1. Step number 2 is relax and allow yourself to commit to relaxing with yourself and relaxing with this image. Notice if when you're looking at the image of yourself, notice if it looks like you're looking at somebody that is outside of your body, or if you're looking at what is a reflection of your own face. Does it feel disconnected, external, distant, or does it feel like you're actually looking at your own body? Okay. For me, I tend to feel like when I'm looking at myself, I can't feel myself in the reflection. It tends to be like I'm holding a picture of myself, even though it's in the mirror. Okay. And to me, it tends to be an experience of being very external. But for you, it might be that looking at yourself, you might start to feel a bunch of sensations in your body or thoughts in your mind that are coming from the image that you see. Okay. So just make some note of that. For me, I tend to feel like I'm looking at something that's like a video or a picture of myself. Do what you do you. So then acknowledging that I'm going to be here for a while, about 5 minutes, I'm relaxing. So relax yourself and accept that what you are seeing in front of you is actually not what you think you're seeing. Acknowledge that it is a representation, that the lighting, the reflection, the glass, the curvature, the distance, everything here is a form of interpretation of what you actually look like. Notice if your image feels thinner or wider, shorter or taller, rounder. Do any features seem to be a different shape than what you would expect yourself to look like? And just make note of that. Okay, this is a very high-end mirror, so it looks exactly to me how I would expect myself to look. And make a note of that day by day, because you might find that in the exact same mirror, in the exact same lighting, on one day you might think your nose looks big, and on another day you might not think anything of your nose, and you might think your eyes look small. Or you might think that your skin texture might be where your thought goes. So all you're doing is making note of what it is in the image that does not look like what you would expect yourself to look like, your self-image. And allow yourself to make notes mentally or write them down of what these are that are standing out in the order that they come. What is the first thing that comes to you that you see, and the next, and the next, and the next? You don't have to dwell on them. You don't have to try and process them. You just have to note them. Okay? So I'll try and do this with you live. And I'm going to see that, I don't know, I guess something that stands out for me that I wouldn't expect me to see on my face is maybe darkness and some shaping under my eyes. And I just acknowledge that they're there. I don't have to try and decide why they're there or how they got there or what I should do about it. That's not important. Just I note that. And that's the first thing on my list right now for today. Okay. I notice there's a bit of a red color there. I notice that my teeth aren't as straight as I'd like them to be. I notice I have my earpiece on. That's something that stands out. It's something that I wouldn't normally expect to see, or I don't believe to be true to my own personal image. And allow for any notes of anything else that comes up. If they're judgments, if what comes up for you is a judgment, just note that and write that down or make a note of it. So a judgment might be, an observation is I see, speckles on my face. A judgment would be, I don't like the speckles on my face. There are too many speckles on my face. Other people don't have this many speckles on my face. Is there a problem with that? If there's kind of doubt, is there a question? Make notes of that, but those would be judgments and not observations. And the end goal of this is to be able to observe. So write down whatever judgments and whatever questions come up, make note of that. And the goal here is to bring yourself to a place where you're just observing. That list has already been listed. Okay, I've listed darkness under my eyes or shape of my teeth or color on my face. I don't have to think about it anymore. I'm now familiar with it. So you're going to be familiarizing yourself with what you look like in that mirror on that day under that lighting in whatever state you're in. Okay, and noting day by day what the differences are. So now the goal here is to try and stare at your eyes. Okay, so really focus on you looking at your eyes as if there's another person that you're having a conversation with, and you really want to trace what's happening with their eyes. So as I do that, as I look at my eyes, I notice right away that my eyes want to dart. Okay, so my eyes are doing this. Your eyes might also dart. Your eyes might blink a lot. Your eyes might feel, you might feel when you look at your eyes that you want to pull back. You might want to go really close. You might want to scrutinize, or you might want to avoid. You might feel like you want to turn your head. Note whatever this is that's happening for you, okay? And just allow yourself to make a note of that action. What is the physical sense of action that your body wants to take? But keep looking at the image of yourself. Don't look away. So now as I'm continuing to look at my eyes, I start to now notice whatever it is that I'm looking at. I'm making observation over some yellow in my eyes, the roundness. There's a highlight or a reflection of light in them. I notice that my left eye seems to be a little bit more closed than my right eye. And these are just observations. Okay, there's no judgment. But if you have judgment, you go right ahead and make note of that. Okay, for you, it might be my left eye is too closed. That's a judgment. I'm just noting that it's more closed than my right. Okay, and we're going to move into just trying to come to a place where there are no more observations and no more judgments. Purely a place of stillness, because all things have been listed and all things have been observed. This is the purpose of doing it for 5 minutes. So I notice that I want to relax into this. I'm settling into it now. So you might start to notice that you're there, you've committed, you've broken the ice, and you you may be able to relax deeper and deeper into this process and this practice of just spending time with yourself, spending time looking at yourself in the mirror. Okay. And so let's keep going. So breathe, relax. Allow yourself to notice any tensions that come up in your body. Allow yourself to notice any thoughts, any desires. Do you have a need to move away or to move closer? Do you have memories that come to mind while you're looking at yourself? Or do you have thoughts that have nothing to do with this at all? Shopping list, to-do list, somewhere else you have to be. And bring yourself to the practice of looking at yourself and being with yourself. And now, as you're looking into your own eyes, and while you continue to look into your own eyes, allow yourself to extend this out as if you really are looking at someone else that's outside of you. You're looking at them now, and you try to connect into who they are. Who is this person that's sitting in front of you? What is this person that's sitting in front of you feeling? What are they thinking? Try to empathize with them. Try to sense into what they're sensing. How are they feeling right now? This person. What questions come into your mind while you're spending time with this person silently? What do you want to ask them? What do you wish you knew about them? Can you get a sense of whether the person you're looking at in the mirror, do they want to learn more about you? Do they want to stay quiet? Does the person you're looking at in the mirror, do they want to tell you something? Do they want to express something to you? Are they having difficulty being with you, looking at you? Are they comfortable staring at you, or are they uncomfortable staring at you? Offer them some reassurance, the person in the mirror. Offer them some reassurance that you're together for 5 minutes and it's okay, and to just relax. And tell them to make a mental note about what it is that they're thinking and feeling right now. Take a breath and relax into the practice of looking at this person. And now allow yourself to wish that you were more connected. Allow yourself to wish that you knew them better. And allow yourself, as the viewer, allow yourself to be aware if there's anything that's blocking you from wanting to know more about them. What's making you feel distant from this person in the mirror? What's stopping you from reaching out and hugging them or getting to know them better? And make a note of what that is for you today, because every day it might be a different answer. And this practice is a practice of observing and noting. And over time, day by day, you'll observe and note the changes and the differences from this practice. Now I'm going to yawn. I was going to say I couldn't get it out because I yawned. I was going to say, as I connect into the person I see in the mirror, and I start to empathize with this person here and now, right here and now, live with you, what I know, what I can resonate or I don't know how to say it, it's really empathizing. What I'm empathizing with them, what I'm feeling, what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing from them is that they're tired. And so I felt like the person I'm looking at is tired. And as soon as I noted that they're tired, I yawned because, I mean, technically we're in the same body, right? And then I just came to the realization that I'm tired. But I really got into the mode of actually seeing them as a different person, and trying to connect through that curiosity. So um, keep going. Okay, almost done. Okay. So now the next thing is, what do you wish for them? Imagine that you just finished having a conversation with somebody, and they're talking about things that they're going through. They've told you about some plans about what they're going, where they're going next. And it's common practice to say, well, I wish you good luck with that, or I hope that you get what you need, or let me know if there's anything that I can help you with, or that you need, or what, I'll check in with you later, or even just, well, thanks a lot for sharing that. And start to offer that to this person that you've just been spending time with in the mirror. What do you want to wish for them? So in my case, I noticed this person is tired, and I'm like, oh, is there anything you need for that? Is there anything I can help you with? Looks like you could use some rest. I really wish that for you. I hope that you get some rest and you take good care of yourself. You deserve it. And I'm talking to the person in the mirror like they are not me. Okay. I'm talking to them like they deserve it. I'm talking to them in a way that I might not be talking to myself if I was connecting in internally. Okay. What do you wish for them? What do you want to offer to them? What kind of help? And last thing is, give yourself, I like to use like a 1 out of 10 kind of rating scale where 10 is the most, but just give yourself a moment of just acknowledging and becoming aware of, how much do you want to see this person again? How much do you want to feel connected to them? How much do you want to give them a hug because you're so happy that you just spent time together? Just make a note of that. If you were leaving this person after this 5-minute time together, spending time meditating together, looking at each other, would you say that was nice and give them a hug? Or would you just be like, okay, well, thanks, and just walk away? Make a note of that. Okay. So I can feel that I have some gratitude for this person spending time with me. I feel that I have some gratitude for them not looking away, that they did honor that I'm spending time with them, and they stayed and spent time with me, and I'm acknowledging that that's meaningful to me, and I'm grateful for that. And I can feel that I would want to say, you know what, this was good, actually. I like this. We should do this again tomorrow. Okay, or sometime soon, but which means later on today, but definitely we should make a plan to do this again tomorrow. And then I check in to see what that person in the mirror says, and I feel like they give a nod, like they agree, and we can call that done for today. Okay. So I know that I spoke that in a way that wasn't just like straight 5 minutes, because I'm trying to explain it as I go. But I hope that you can follow that experience with me in this kind of live stream, and then not need to have to listen to this when you're doing it on your own. Okay. Make some notes about what these steps are for yourself. And you might add to these notes. You might ask yourself a different set of questions. I know that for some people, they might feel when I started doing this like 12 years ago, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I was just, there was too much judgment, too much really, I mean, let's just keep it all to judgment. There's just too much judgment and not a lot of, you might say love, but I think it's more accurate to say like respect, connection with what I saw, with the person I saw. And I had actually a lot of difficulty spending any more than 5 seconds, 5 or 10 seconds looking at that person. Like I just look and I used to see like distortion. It used to look like my face was moving. It used to look like I was in a worse mood in the mirror than what I was feeling. And I really paid a lot of attention to the like, I was paying attention to why am I thinking that about myself in the mirror. And it led to some internal process, but it didn't really propel me further on this process. I didn't really see the purpose of it. But over time, instead of making it like, what do I see as like, this is a reflection of my face. Wow, my face is distorted. That just makes me walk away and think that I have a distorted face. But that's inaccurate because this is just a representation. It's not really true to what other people see, what we actually are shaped as. So I started then treating it like they were another person. And that's when they started answering me in a way of I could feel something different that wasn't a projection or my judgment. There was like an individual process that was going on when I started treating the person in the mirror like a different person. And the other thing is that we tend to not treat ourselves as well as we treat others. It's a societal structure thing, we're never going to really, we can't abandon ourselves as easily as somebody else can abandon us. So we have a tendency of doing more to try and reach out and make a connection with others because they can go away, and we don't take as good care of ourselves because we tend to not go away. But you might find that it's the opposite for you. You might find that you treat yourself even better than you treat others. Maybe you have more self-love. So how do we bring this into the idea of recoding the self-esteem with a mirror? Well, the first thing I want to note is if you do this for 7 days, there will be a inherent process. There's going to be something that happens over the course of days through simply observing. And what they found when the people in these social experiments that I was referring to at the beginning of this video, when they were just staring at each other, most of the reaction was fear-based because of not knowing what was going to happen and what were they going to say and what was the judgment. And then there's the social anxiety of even having to answer and explain themselves, and just staring at the other person relieved all of those, like all of those anxieties, all those fears, all those unknowns, because all they could do was just sit and stare at each other. And so much release came from the understanding of how much fear we sit in. So it's inherent that if you look at yourself for 5 minutes every day for a few days, these people were doing it for 5 minutes once, and they were hugging each other and like feeling like they just met their best friend, and then they didn't say a word. So part of the recoding of the self-esteem from looking at yourself in the mirror is this idea of pure observation. The reason why we would have to do it over the course of days is because we know what the person in the mirror is thinking because we are thinking it. Whereas if we're staring at a stranger, we don't actually know what they're thinking. And if we sit there long enough and they don't react and they don't say something, then we can grow an expectation that they're safe. It's an expectation we don't really know. But when we look at ourselves in a mirror and we can hear all of the judgments and hear all of the thoughts, well, that feels very unsafe. And that's why we wouldn't look in the mirror. But the whole idea here as a practice is that we're trying to do is actually recode the self-esteem in the mirror. And so by simply observing, so here's the point, by observing the person in the mirror and feeling curious about what they're feeling, by them expressing how they feel, which is us hearing ourselves thinking. But by not interacting, by just observing and holding space for that, a sense of safety can come from that. A sense of normality, normalization, a habituating to what you see, judgment just drops. When you see the same thing every single day, and there's no need to depend on this thing that you see every single day, there is a point where we tend to just actually start ignoring it. We tend to just ignore the same thing that we see every single day, a street sign, a stop sign, or a certain building that never moves. We just know the building's there and we don't really think anything of it. So part of the recoding of the self-esteem with the mirror is that if we note that the color of our eyes and the shape of our nose, and we do it every single day without any judgment, just this is the shape I see today, and there's no action taken on that, it creates a sense of safety, and B, a normalcy. Like it just becomes normal. Like it's what I see all the time. There's nothing to really say of it. There's nothing to really make note of. And by treating the person in the mirror like a different person, there is and reaching out to say, what is it that you're going through? How can I help you? By offering the person in the mirror help or space holding of just listening to what they have to say without just smiling and nodding and not having to make any reaction to that or say anything at all. By simply listening to somebody, it gives them a sense of self-esteem. They feel like their time is valuable because you're spending time with them. So by spending time with yourself in the mirror, there is a chance that over time, the person in the mirror, which is you, will start to feel more valuable, more important, simply because you're taking the time to share with them and acknowledge them and see what it is that they're feeling and seeing and what they're going through. And also, you're ending the process with well wishes. I hope you get what you're looking for. This was nice. Let's do it again. The kinds of things you would do with another person. If you do it with the person in the mirror starts to feel like you care. And if you care, that means they must be valuable, because we don't really do things for things we don't care about. As in, we don't do anything for things we don't care about. We do actually judge negatively things that we care about, and judge positively things that we care about. But we tend to just move along and not really do anything with things that we don't care about. So any form of action, any form of interaction, any form of just attention, automatically, positive or negative, automatically means that the person you're doing it to is important. Otherwise, you wouldn't be saying anything to them. Okay? Any questions? Anybody like to share or even add to this from personal experience? Wish we could get Georgia in here. The invite is actually posted up to Facebook, but I don't see it. But I'd love to get somebody even on screen to talk about it. And Georgia might actually be okay with doing that. But Lydia, if you want to type anything, a point of view, you're welcome to come on the screen if you want as well, but you'd have to tell me by typing. And I don't see any comments in the Facebook Live if I am actually seeing this properly. Oh, Jennifer. Hey. Hi, Jen. I didn't know you were there. Great session. I avoid meters like the plague. Well, hopefully there isn't any form of, I don't know what they call that. There's a lot of, I was once super scared of mirrors because of horror films. Horror films really play up the idea that you can look into a mirror and do these like magic spells and and witchcraft and things like that. But let's be really, really accurate about it. There is no worse spell that you can do than to look at your own self in the mirror and call what you see bad. That's the worst horror film. And I think that's where this idea of even looking in a mirror and saying these incantations or whatever, it's like, or even just judging what's in the mirror. It's because the image is externalized. And another thing that's a horror for us is to actually see ourselves outside of our bodies. For some people, that's a bit of a horror film. I'm talking about horror films. Jennifer's not talking about horror films. But insecurities is something that we can feel when we look at ourselves. And to me, well, hold on. Let me see this new comment blocking. Yeah. I know Jennifer's not talking about, nobody's mentioned anything but superstitious things. What I'm saying is, this is the kind of thing that has led to horror films. Just the idea of looking at oneself in a mirror and having to deal with insecurities can feel so horrible that actually has become the basis of actual horror films. That was my point. So, and I'm just taking a look to see if, because I see also Lydia's typing. But the insecurity of looking at oneself, what I'm wondering, and feel free, so I used to the mirror of the wall so I wouldn't be scared late at night. Yeah. How much fear is in a mirror? But what I'm proposing, so there's many people are making comments about the fear of what's in the mirror. What's in the mirror? Is it gonna? I used to think that what was in the mirror was actually gonna come out of the mirror and like literally like this. Like I'm trying to this way. A hand was gonna come out of the mirror and like grab my face. All of these things are actually yeah, that's why, Lydia, I mentioned the black mirror, and this is like a normal mirror. But what I want to propose here is this. Would you have any difficulty looking at a mirror if you had no self-judgment? Let's just pose that direct and clear. Try to imagine all of the Instagram, social media influencers and that are just like trying to find a mirror. They're always trying to get their phone camera pointed at them so they can see themselves. There's no fear there of looking in a mirror. To them, there's no even concept of insecurity or whatnot. Well, actually, that's not true. There's a lot of insecurity, which is why they keep checking the mirror to make sure they're perfect. But what if there was no judgment? What if in this practice we looked in the mirror and just meditated with ourselves, meditated with the person in the mirror? What if we looked in the mirror and just waited long enough for all of the insecurities that come up to make note of them until they actually then go back down again? Because that's what people don't do with the mirror exercises. They don't stay long enough. There is something on the other side of fear. To see the same thing every day and to just make a note of it makes it common, makes it predictable, normal, safe. The judging of the thing in the mirror, that has a negative outcome. It reinforces the judgment to keep repeating it. So the purpose of this exercise is to just witness what the person in the mirror, what is their insecurity. This is how I'm extending this exercise out. This isn't just us only looking at ourselves in a mirror and feeling insecure about ourselves. This is extending it out to, how would we treat the person in the mirror if they were a different person? What would we think about their look? Yeah, sure, we might judge their look. Yeah, sure, we might think something about the color of their hair or the look of it. Okay, but if we sit there long enough, the brain gets bored of judging the same thing over and over and over again. It just does. The brain cannot just sit and make fun of, I cannot sit and make, not that I would, but I can't sit and make fun of my eyebrows for 5 minutes straight. We won't do it. At some point, all of the ideas that keep popping up, if we don't look away and we just sit and we're just meditating and breathing and looking and noticing, these are the thoughts of the person that we're looking at, they'll pass. They will actually just calm because the brain gets bored of repeating it. Now, next day you come back, look in the mirror, same thoughts might come up again because that's a habit, because that's neural pathways programmed to see the same thing, to react to when they see something. But this is the whole point of how we're recoding this. The point of this exercise is to recode through not reacting to those ideas, to asking what that person who's going through it, how do we sympathize with them? How do we empathize? What would we offer a person that was going through that? Let's raise their self-esteem by offering that to them. I have to hold this. This is clicking a lot. How do we offer that to them? Because if we look in the mirror and see ourselves, we have a greater chance of treating what we see negatively. That's okay if that's the initial reaction. Let that be the first 30 seconds of the exercise. But breathe through that. Breathe through the scattering of the brain. Breathe through and just stay there and don't look away as the eyes want to dart, as the body wants to like try and get away. Just stay and say, you're okay. We're just spending 5 minutes together to just sit and stare. Okay? That very powerful shares are happening here. This is a very deep exercise. So thank you everyone for sharing. And I'm not naming anybody's names, of course, here because I want people to feel safe. But how much of this is going to be triggering self-esteem issues, right? And the self-esteem is really a judgment of, so, you know, for Jen who mentions insecurities, I'm like, everybody's going to say insecurities. I don't think I'm calling anybody out here, but you know, Jen, are you willing to share? Is there something deeper than that? Like insecure of what? If the person in the mirror feels like you deserve to think poorly of yourself, what do you feel is the benefit that you will get? And what do they think is the benefit that you will get from being insecure? How does that serve you? If you're insecure, then you won't show up in front of people that might judge you. If you're insecure, if you think that you don't look good, then you will be safe because it will stop you from showing up. There must be a benefit to you being insecure when you look at yourself. Your brain must see that there is a good reason to have that, not from a place of self-preservation, from a place of staying safe. Our reactions of being insecure when we look at ourselves and having low self-esteem, that reaction of low self-esteem and self-judgment is protection. What are you protecting yourself from? What is the worst that can happen? Is it a judgment? If somebody else is judging you, is that any more horrible than you judging yourself? Because there are horror films of people that are looking in mirrors and doing stuff in mirrors, but there are not horror films of people being told that their hair doesn't look good that day. But it's pretty horrible to us when we look at ourselves and think, wow, my hair looked horrible today. Why does it feel so much worse when we're doing it to ourselves? The reason why is because if we are looking so down on ourselves, we will refrain, we will stop from reaching out to ourselves and saying, what can I do for you about that? What do you need? How can I help with that? When I looked at myself in today's practice and I saw that the person in the mirror was tired and then I yawned, like I wouldn't have thought that about myself in that moment. But the person in the mirror felt tired. And because I was treating the person in the mirror like somebody that I wanted to take care of and be interested in, I wanted to know, what can I do to help you with that? And my body reacted by yawning. That was the way I helped myself. And that's okay. So if you look at yourself in the mirror so what you're listing off the things in order of what you see first, and you're just stating it as an observation in this exercise. Okay. So for me, yeah. And so this practice is a way of, so somebody's mentioning, that it's a parallel to what I see, that when I look in the mirror, for whatever reason, my left eye always is more, even when I smile, this eye is always more closed than the other eye. I've come to a point now where I see that as an observation. It just is. That is what it is. Okay. There's nothing to do about it. There's nothing to think about it. If I got made fun of, if I was bullied for it, if somebody like broke up with me because they're like, I just can't deal with that left eye being smaller, I gotta go. If I had some form of unexpressed sadness, fear, then I would see my left eye in the mirror and I would think, oh, all the memories, all the pain and suffering. And that's okay. And that's okay to have that memory. But the point of this exercise is to become aware that that is what's in your your subconscious mind. You're just aware now, because you're looking at yourself in the mirror, that that's always in there. It's best to be aware that that's what you're thinking and start to reprogram that by saying, yes, you went through having dentures. Yeah. In my case, I went through having Invisalign, which fixed. You can't. It's too. The lights are too bright. It fixed this overlapping of my bottom teeth, and I couldn't do it any longer. And I took the Invisalign off right at the very end, and all of my teeth, which were perfect, all went back to looking like this. Okay, they overlap now. Okay, I look at that and I think, if I would have just stuck with it, if I would have, I did think that. I did think, oh, all that money got paid and it made a massive difference in my mouth, but it regressed. Oh, this tooth that I broke is darker than all the other ones, and I've never gotten around to like putting a veneer on. Yeah, I see those now as an observation. Oh yeah, that tooth is dark. Oh yeah, those are overlapped. And I remember all of those things, but because I've done this process so many times, it's just, I'm bored of saying it. Yeah, I know my tooth is dark. I don't need to say it anymore. Yeah, I remember that I had an overbite. Yeah, that I get it. I've said it already. That's the purpose of this exercise, is there comes a point where the recalling and the memory is from a place of somebody else telling you that they went through it, and you're saying, what can I do for you? Yeah, I see it. No, it's not that bad. How would you treat the person in the mirror differently? And at some point, that will become the thought that you actually have of yourself, and it will subside those judgments when you look in the mirror. Does that make sense? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Have you tried it? Because what I see when I look in the mirror now is only what is absolutely new now. I'm like, oh, there's a spot there that wasn't there yesterday. Huh. I don't see all of the other stuff that I've been listing off for the last 12 years. Like, they're there, but I don't think anything of it. There's no reaction anymore. That's the purpose of this as a repetitive exercise. Brain gets bored of saying the same thing again and again. Then start instilling what you want to say. That's kind of like level 2 of this practice, is like, what do you want to say about the person? What does the person in the mirror need to hear? It's a hard thing to say it because you're thinking that's you. It's as if you're trying to say it to yourself, but really externalize it and treat that person in the mirror like they deserve something, that they deserve to be treated in a way that you're not treating yourself. Practice doing it to the person in the mirror. Make sense? Yeah, lots of memories. I see people are getting, they look at themselves in the mirror and they get memories of all of the things that they had to go through and all of the things that they had to hear. And that's really great that you are aware of it, that they surface every day that you look in the mirror. But do this from a perspective of, I am doing the daily practice to become aware of the things that I see, then the memory become aware of the memories that I remember so that I can list them down and do it again tomorrow. And I'll list it down again. And I'll do it again the day after that. And I'll list it down again. And at some point, you will just be done with hearing it. It won't matter to you. It'll just be the same thing that you saw all the other days. And it's not going to be new anymore. It's going to be common. It's going to be normal. It's going to just be the way you are. And yes, we definitely judge ourselves much more harshly than we judge others because self-preservation, like I said earlier, we're doing it to actually protect ourselves. Okay. That's awesome. Lydia, try it out for a week. It does take time because there's going to be this kind of like, if this is progress, you start looking in the mirror and it's going to go the other way. It's going to be like worse and worse and worse for a couple of days. And you're just going to it's going to remind you of all the things that you're carrying and remind you of all the things that you try not to think about. Stick with it. And eventually those will just become like, yeah. I've heard that story a million times, and it'll start to go up, and you'll start to kind of just see yourself in an observational way. And eventually you can turn that into like, hey, how's it going? Long time no see. What do you got going on today? That's fun. You can have a conversation with the person in the mirror. You can say, you're doing great. But that's not the exercise I'm not jumping you right into, look in the mirror and say these affirmations. You're beautiful. You're what you deserve. Like, we're not doing that. Okay. We're doing what's more authentically real, which is, oh, this reminds me exactly what you guys just said. Oh, this reminds me when I had an over. Oh, this reminds me when, oh, this makes me want to, talk, like, say these things. Like, it's about using the mirror to surface from our subconscious mind what we are carrying around with us, so we can become aware that's what we're carrying around with us all the time. This is the kind of thoughts that we think about ourselves all the time. And we want them to come out. We want to hold space for them for 5 minutes at least. And we want to know that they're heard so that we can say, oh yeah, I'm sorry that happened. That's in the past. And if it's in the current moment, what kind of support can I give you for that? What can I do for you? What do you need? Okay. We did go the full hour. That's amazing how much I can talk. It's true. I can do it for days, and born with the gift of gab. So, it's a thing. This is one of those things that is very triggering for many people. And I do believe that this exercise is something that can make a difference, but it can only make a difference, first of all, if you believe that it will make a difference. And yes, I know it makes a difference. So I hope that you can start to believe that it makes a difference doing this every day. I hope that doing this practice does bring you at least a sense of understanding about how harshly you do treat yourself, but from a place of understanding by us doing this in the live, that's common. That is what so many people see and hear. It's not just you. And it's because everybody's doing it to themselves. And the only person that can really make that change is you. Everybody's perspective is just a suggestion. The one that you decide becomes your reality, not everyone else's point of view. They're just suggestions. You could just as easily decide that the person who says you're the greatest looking person of all time, you could just as easily decide that opinion was the one you stuck with. But we remember what makes us emotionally charged. I cannot say this enough. It is the science. We remember most what makes us most emotional. And if a person tells you you are the greatest thing they've ever experienced, and you don't get as happy as them when they say it, you're not going to take that in. You're going to bounce it. If a person says, this is horrible, when it isn't, and you're already thinking that, so you resonate, that reminds you of how horrible you think things are, that's a very high emotional charge. Negativity is a very strong emotional charge. You will bond to that. That'll be the thing you remember. The way you recode it is put attention to the emotion of something positive. If somebody says something positive that you don't believe, even things you say to yourself in the mirror, if you don't believe it, give emotional attachment to that. Give emotional empowerment to that by saying, you know what? That's the one I want to experience. I do want to feel this happiness and this joy and this and this self-acceptance or this self-love. I want to have what they have. That would feel great. And then you start doing it. It's all a choice. Okay. If somebody said something negative when you were a kid and somebody said something positive when you were a kid, the negative one will have a greater emotional charge, and that's going to be the one that sticks because of self-preservation, because we are wired to look for things that are dangerous through evolution. We're wired to look for the things that make us feel negative and then attach to that. Just understand the science. It's work to attach to something positive. Okay? So let's do it. Have a great week. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I really do appreciate it. And I'd love to hear what the results are for you of this practice. It's worked great for me, and I'd love to hear how it goes for you. Okay? Have a great week. I didn't have it up. Okay, let's do it again. Have an awesome week. Puts on graphic. That's not showing up. Maybe we do it again. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone, for showing up. Have a great week. Logo. Music. It's in here somewhere. Music.